Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's roundtable talk. My name is Joel Cherney, and I will be moderating today's panel discussion. With National Volunteer Week coming up on April 21st and 27th, and today we want to discuss some of the turnways to recognize our volunteers and enhance the long-term volunteer retention during the National Volunteer Week and beyond. Lastly, we'd like to say thank you to the NVFC's partners at ESO for sponsoring today's roundtable talk. ESO is one of the largest software and data solution providers for fire departments and emergency EMS agencies. Maggie will be including some information in the chat where you can learn more about that. So before we get started, we're happy to introduce our subject matter experts and let them give their own brief introductions. Stephen, you want to start us?
Sure. Thanks, Joel. I don't know about subject matter experts. I think it takes all of us collaborating like we are now to kind of help tackle this this tough subject. My name is Stephen Robertson. I'm currently the fire chief for the City of King Fire Department in North Carolina. Been in fire service. I'm going into my 30th year. Started as a junior firefighter for the King Fire Department and transitioned from volunteer to the career side. Currently volunteer with the Sauratown Fire Department in Stokes County, a neighboring department. Very involved in over the years and working with departments and talking about recruitment and retention. I currently sit on the North Carolina State Firefighters Association Board of Directors as second vice president, and we advocate and work for over 54,000 firefighters in the state of North Carolina. And this is always a subject that is talked about regularly with our board and at our different events throughout the state is how do we recruit and retain our volunteer firefighters.
Hey, Joyce.
Hi, I'm Joyce Sh. I'm from Frederick County, Maryland. I volunteer with the Carroll Manor Fire Company and Adamstown, and I also been there 20 years. I also work for Frederick County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Services as their volunteer recruiter. I have 24 different corporations that I work with. We have about 2,000 admin / operational members. On the volunteer side, we are a combination system. And as Stephen said, we definitely are in trouble with their folks. We need more operational folks. And I'm hoping today we can give you some insight and keep moving forward.
All right. Thank you for all being here. And today's discussion will last about an hour, depending on how many questions we receive. As the title suggests, we are hoping to leave you with at least 10 tools or tips to help your department improve your retention and recruitment of volunteers. I have some questions in front of me already to start the discussion, but we're also taking questions from you, our audience. If you have any, leave a comment and we'll try to answer it. With that, let's get started. So I'm going to start with you, Steve. What are some of the ways that can be done out there to build a toolkit for increasing the diversity in the ranks of our applicants to better mirror the demographics of our volunteer community, and how do we reach that audience?
Well, I think one thing that as the fire servicers, your fire department, your fire department needs to know your community. Is your community's, if anything like we're dealing with around here, we're quickly growing. We're right next to the 5th largest municipality in the state of North Carolina. So we're seeing some overflow from that. So I think as a fire department, we have to make sure we're involved in our community so that we can have an understanding of what our community makeup is, and let them know about your department, how you operate, that there are opportunities to volunteer, because what we have found out in our county with the growth that we've seen, that people are moving from you know, larger towns to a little bit smaller setting for different reasons, and they're used to that career fire department that's there. They don't understand that they're served by a volunteer fire department, and they can be involved in that department, not necessarily as a firefighter, but they can, you know, have multiple different opportunities to be involved in the fire service and give back to the community.
I know myself, we're having a larger Hispanic population because there's a meat packing plant close to us, and getting my first Hispanic to join my fire department sure made it a lot easier to get the next one to join.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always trying to get that diversity out there is always better. So yeah. Next question I have for you is what are some of the local incentives that you can help for your recruitment, and besides stuff from the state, you know, for example, benefits from the workers or who volunteer their time? What kind of benefits are there?
Well, I can speak about some benefits that we've been able to provide and work towards here locally. Our county is one avenue. They provide each fire department $6,000 for volunteer incentive annually in their budget. That can be you know, and that's for the department to use as they feel best for their organization, whether it be a pay-per-call option, or they provide them with some you know, equipment through that process. We have some other avenues of where we have our state system has a pension that the volunteer fire service can be involved in, and departments paying that premium and those dues on that pension is definitely something that has helped with being involved or recruiting and retaining volunteers. So that's definitely some avenues that have worked well for us. I've had some departments recently tell me they are looking at length of service type programs. One department in particular near us is talking about if a volunteer's in for 10 years, they're going to purchase them a leather helmet. You know, and we all know what those items are going for nowadays. But
Yeah.
you know, it's going beyond looking at kind of like monetary ways. It's other ways of showing your appreciation and your care for your volunteers to keep them in, you know, engaged and involved.
Yeah, good. I see we already had one question pop up from Tara about the Hispanic population in her area and how I got them to join. Well, first of all, we found that firefighter that we already had that was had good friends in the Hispanic community, and then just talked to him into getting one of his friends to join us. And like I said, it spreads because it seems like everybody wants to help their neighborhood as much as they can. So it's always good. So third question I have for you, Steve, is how can leadership in the volunteer departments be urged to remove some of the old rules and practices to recruit more diverse group of applicants?
Yeah, it sounds like we're talking about generational differences possibly right there.
Yeah, I think so.
That may be a topic for another discussion. But I guess kind of going back to question one, I mean, you know, if we can, you know, break down those walls and we get outside the firehouse and see what our community makeup is, that will definitely maybe visibly show those things. We just have to be open. We have to be have the ability to let our membership have some opportunity to speak. And that, you know, as leaders, they need to show that they're willing to listen and at least discuss items. It doesn't mean that it has to, you know, be everything that's said we go through with, but, you know, we definitely, you know, everybody wants to have a voice. So that is definitely some opportunities there to kind of, you know, break down that the old and look at, you know, constantly self-improvement would be the best way. You know, that probably to answer that question is we constantly need to be looking at ways to, how do we self-improve and what are things that are holding us back, and definitely, you know, some old rules and things like that are something that should be addressed and looked at.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can relate that to some of ours, and just extending the boundaries. You know, some departments you have to live within so close to the district.
Right.
In the old days when you had plenty of people to volunteer, it was easy to draw from that crowd. But now, as it gets a little harder, we've extended our boundaries. So.
Well, and that's exactly right. And I know it was kind of mentioned about, you know, your situation where you know, engage the Hispanic community. Why would you turn away somebody from that who works in your town, doesn't live there, but maybe the company gives them the ability to go leave work to volunteer for something, you know, an emergency call, you know, then, you know, that would give you that opportunity. They don't, you know, they're in your town, you know, over 40 hours a week. So that's definitely something that, you know, the example you gave is, you know, would be fitting of that.
Yeah, thank you. Question number 4, is there funding available for advertising and graphic designs for recruitment posters, and where is this funding available from? Do you know?
Well, we had some success both at the state level with the North Carolina Association of Fire Chiefs and locally with the Louisville Fire Department, who in obtaining federal grants for recruitment and retention. The North Carolina Association of Fire Chiefs has worked with our all departments in the state about dispersing the grant information and materials, holding workshops, providing almost like recruitment equipment, tents, things of that nature to hold recruiting fairs. The Louisville Fire Department in North Carolina and Forsyth County, they graciously shared their grant with the all departments in Forsyth County. That provided some marketing aspects as well. But also, you know, looking at getting in touch with your county HRs, human resource department. They're constantly recruiting for multiple, you know, departments within their county, and they may have a lot of avenues and abilities to help with recruiting for your fire departments as well.
Yeah, I would imagine even maybe reaching out to some of your bigger businesses in town who
Yes.
might have a graphic artist on staff that would be willing to do a little work for you.
Well, that you know, is local community colleges with programs that fit that, and I mean, even locally, I'm just amazed at what some of the high schools are even offering. So even, you know, talking to your high schools, that may be some opportunities, because, you know, the college and the high school programs are obviously going to have projects that they would be assigned for their program. So those are definitely other avenues to look at, especially on the cost effective opportunities, because marketing and advertising is very costly depending on how far you need to go. And, you know, at some point in time, you have to look at the rate of return for your investments on that.
Okay. And you mentioned the grants, were those SAFER grants that
yes,
you
those
used?
were both SAFER grants for both those organizations.
Yeah, that's what we've done in Nebraska also. So, and I guess this is a good time to plug the NVFC's Make Me a Firefighter page, because there's lots of good options there, to some already pre-printed material that you can use. So we'll talk more about that later. So question number 5, is there a resource list of package materials or advertisings such as videos, poster graphics, or news releases available that you know of?
Well, I think you may have answered that with the NBFC part. But I think also networking. I mean, you know, I think networking is a huge part of leadership in the fire service, and talking with, I've seen some of our chats coming up, about the Canva is free for nonprofits. I mean, just right here, in the 131 attendees we have, that may be something right there, the networking they're involved with this discussion may have been just something right there that can help them with that's something that may be cost prohibitive, and just that little chat box coming up with that could be a great resource for them. So yeah, but I think the NBFC is definitely an opportunity, but talk to your state associations as well if you have those, and they can help a lot with that as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there, and Joyce, feel free to answer some of these questions for us next. Why is retention more difficult to survive in the fire service?
Today, society has changed a lot since the history of the fire service. And back to what Stephen was saying, some of it has to do with diversity. A lot of it has to do with the generations that we're dealing with. Back in my day, when I first started out, we used to hang out at the station. It would be a daily, everybody would hang out, have a night or day or sometime every day that they were hanging out at the station to do things. We don't have that luxury anymore. Most of our folks either have to respond from home or can't respond because they don't have the time and or the resources available, such as childcare and funding even. It's kind of interesting how our quality of life has changed things so much for us. Everybody wants a work-life balance, but within that work-life balance, we have our family, we have sports we're competing against, we have unfortunately the lack of expectations that we neglect to provide. And I think that we also in some cases lack appreciation to people. Thank you or a pat on the back after asking goes a long way. We aren't as free anymore either, because if you have a young family and you want to volunteer, if you don't have somebody there to keep your children, then how are you going to volunteer? So either it's got to be another family member or someone out there. And a lot of people I know, they actually pay babysitters to come in, high school students, that if they can get them to do it, to come and watch their children so that they can come volunteer. We do have a lot of training demands. And I think that is really the big portion of our problem, because I'm just going to say naturally everybody wants, and we are needed, even though the NFPA requires a 1070 versus a 1071 for volunteers versus career. Our career folks really want our volunteers to be the same exact way as their career folks are. So in my county, we actually are. We take the same exact classes that our career people take, with the exception of aerial operator. And nights and weekends and anytime we can squeeze it in, and if the class is available, so that we are ranked basically the same across the board. I think too, accountability is another issue. We just need to take and think about the big picture. Safety is an issue. Life in general has changed. Generations have changed. And what I used to deal with and be able to do, I don't have that same luxury today. And because of that, I think it's very hard for people to survive in our service as well as the service in general, because people can't make the time commitments.
Yeah, I noticed one of the comments too mentioned about the training and how to keep people interested in doing that, because like you said, the time commitment to just do the training. I know we have a couple of younger couples, and it almost seems like one of them comes to train, the other one stays home with the kids. They just take turns. And it's kind of tough. I wish they could both be there every night for training. So
absolutely. And I'm sure they wish they could, but they have to make that financial decision and work family life balance there in order to make that happen.
Yeah, they have one set of grandparents that are close, but if they're busy that night, then they're out of luck. So,
Mhm.
what would you think would be some of the realistic expectations for retention?
Be honest and open up front. I think we, in general, we love our service, but we have to be a unique person in order to deal in the service. If you can get past a lot of that, I think our service is awesome. We offer lifetime skills. We offer um, realistic expectations, I think, is what we need to offer, and we don't necessarily do that. To me, our generations today are family oriented. They want to take and do things together. They need each other's support. Therefore, they also need exact expectations. They are technologically intelligent. They can do anything as long as they have a phone or a computer in front of them. What we're finding, and I'm sure everyone else is, and this is not to say it's their fault, so please don't take it that way, but we don't have the skill-based knowledge in today's world that we had 10 years, 15 years ago. So I'm going to use me as an example. I live on a farm, so I know what a lot of the tools and stuff are, right? But if I have a new people coming in that's all they know is living in their little community and their developing communities that have not had that exposure, our school systems are not teaching those exposures. So they're not having that opportunity to come in with that knowledge, but yet we in the service expect that they know that. And I can tell you, I've asked people to go get certain things and they go, but they're afraid to ask. I don't understand what you're asking me. Or where, I could say, well, go get a screwdriver out of the utility, but they don't know what a screwdriver is. So those type of things, we need to backstep to the basics and start and come forward. I do think our expectations should be specific. I do think we should have measurable ones. Um, all expectations should be attainable for anyone and everybody across the board. I think they should be reasonable as well. And most of our expectations should be time based. Everything we do in life has a deadline to it. So I do think that, if we give them 3 months to train, or in our case, it takes almost 6 months to become a firefighter. It takes almost 9 months to become an EMT, emergency medical technician. So we, during that time, need to make sure, say, since you're training, are you going to be able to do A, B, C, D, and E? Or, okay, as a corporation, we're going to exempt you from doing A through E until you get past your training. The other part of it is we don't have mentorship. We have very knowledgeable people from the older generations. We have very knowledgeable people from the younger generations. We just need to figure out how to talk and communicate with each other. And we can do it if we just make the time to do it.
Yeah, I believe that membership or mentorship is very good thing to have because sometimes you get that mentor to develop that relationship with the new guy. They don't mind going over and kind of asking him,
Absolutely.
what are we supposed to really be doing here? And why are we
Well,
doing this?
I actually teach what Air County has a local program. I do the Gear Up program, and it's basically for all volunteers that are new coming into the system. For operational members, admin can come, but it's more for the operationals. And basically, what that does is I have ages 16 up. I've had them up to 72 years of age. So I have a big variety of diversity there. And to be honest with you, it's really cool to see our older folks working with their younger folks in my class. They're all doing the same thing and they all know what the same expectations are. It's just that they have to work together. It makes them work together in order to accomplish the end goal. And they know if they don't, I give them a t-shirt as well as a certificate of completion, and they know what they have to meet in order to make that. It's a 2.5-week program. So I have a lot of chiefs who say, well, I don't understand what you're doing. Come on in and sit down and watch. Come in and help me. Look
Yeah.
what our new students or our new people are seeing and doing that I'm trying to take and help you with, so you don't have to worry about it.
Good, good. So, I guess my next question for you then is, are there career advancement opportunities for the volunteers?
In my opinion, yes. And I'm going to say that for multiple reasons. First off, every day someone ought to be learning something new. There's, I have never met a person that can't learn something. Number two, we all deal in community outreach. And in our communities, you can always learn something and share, whether that's it might be a field that you've never even thought about doing. The third thing is, as far as advancement in officership or leadership, absolutely, we have those. It's a lot of it's dependent on training and time, but we do have that capability to make that happen. We also, mentorship, again, goes back to your mentorship programs. That is a way of advancing because you're showing your leadership skills. Take a training course and teach the training course. That's again another leadership. Become an instructor. So we have a lot of advancements that we do, I think, not expecting it to be a career advancement, that we can also use outside of the service, that you learn in the service. So in my opinion, that's always, knowledge is power, and you can always use that knowledge anywhere you go. So yes, we do have a career advancement.
Yeah, I echo them points big because how many volunteers have you guys had that have gone on to become paid firefighters?
We have at least 4 volunteers every cycle we open up, and we usually open up a cycle at least once a year.
Yeah, so, and the same with instructors. That was a good point because that's another job opportunity out there for a young volunteer. Once they get fully trained, take the instructors classes and then maybe become part-time instructor and then maybe even move up to full-time job. So there are definitely opportunities out there.
And they could be doing the same thing we're doing. They can take over. They're my succession planning.
All right. What do you have for what creates a positive work involvement within our service? I noticed we did have question, or someone mentioned the cliques that they're dealing with in their departments.
Unfortunately, that is never going to go away. I think we can curve it some. I do know that in every place I've ever been, there are cliques and there are big egos. And it goes back to what I said, knowledge is power. The problem is they don't know how to be welcoming. They don't understand the respect for each other. And I fight that on a daily basis. So sometimes you kind of need to step back, reevaluate, and don't go in with a negative attitude. Go in with a positive attitude and just ask, what is going on that you don't help me, or I don't understand? Because that is a problem. That is a big problem. The BS or the clicks or even the drama is really bad for retention. And today we are trying truly in our service. We've stopped a lot of that. Now, as they say, call 1-800-WHO-CARES or tell a fireman and they'll tell everybody. Some of that can be good, some of that can be bad. But the first thing is they need to acknowledge you. So my encouragement is, and I tell my class this all the time, you need to go introduce yourselves to your officers. I don't care whether it's operational and or administrative. You need to make yourself known. Once you make yourself known, then you can take and work on, I don't understand this and I'm not getting the support I need. Once they understand that, hopefully the lines of communication will open and you'll have a better opportunity. Now, I'm not going to deny some stations don't get past that. And in my opinion, go to another station. Most of my stations don't have that you have to live in the first due area. I realize a lot of them do. But as I always tell everybody, every one of my stations has their own personality. And just because you don't fit in this one does not necessarily mean that you will not fit into the next one. And the worst thing that can be is being unhappy because you're what we call the silent quitter, because nobody recognizes you, nobody gives you the time of day, they don't value you, they don't want to listen to you. So I understand where you're coming from, but it goes back to leadership. And if you don't point it out to leadership, it's never going to change.
Right, right. And you know, the whole simple word of just saying thank you when your crew does an excellent job, or just the small things. Someone actually swept out the equipment bay while the trucks were gone. It's just saying thank you to them folks is always a good way to create some positive work environment.
I like Barbara's question. How do you stop the drama? That's a tough one. You are correct. That is a tough one, but you do not have to be part of the drama. And that's where I think a lot of people don't know the difference or don't see the difference. You can hear it, walk away. You don't have to listen to it. Go do something else. Go work on cleaning something, or go pull a drill, or practice something. Just don't become part of it. The other part of it is part of the drama is gossiping. And the gossip needs to stop, because if the gossip stops, then a lot of times the only drama that you're going to have left around is what's going on around the call or somebody's personal life. And truly, HIPAA should stop a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah. Just reminding people, HIPAA. Is when you hear something, just say that one word.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my next question for you is, when is it okay to say goodbye to a volunteer?
I think that's one of the tougher ones, because we are so desperate for volunteers that sometimes we forget that not everybody's a good fit for the service. We have some people who are physically not capable. We have some people who are not mentally capable. We have some who want to be more than what they are. And I think poor leadership's a problem to some. And unfortunately, that one's a hard one to crack. Toxic or unsupportive culture is another reason. If you're going to come in with an attitude and you want to be singled out and not do anything together as a teamwork, which is what normally we do, that's a problem. And it's okay to say, hey, I don't think you're going to work in this culture, and give the reasons why. If you don't give them the opportunity to fix the problem, then we are not doing due justice to them as well. And then if they say, well, I'm done with this, okay, fine, you're done. Good luck. Thank you very much for the time you've put in. And there's the door. Unfortunately, a lot of times theirs quit because of medical histories, or they've gotten hurt and can't come back, and the gossip and the clicks. And I hate it, because if you're not going to contribute to the good of the department, then you're part of the problem.
I can relate back to one of our volunteers that we had a little bit of a dust up at the station after a call, and they decided to quit the department, and I offered to the rest of the department to ask them to come back, but I wanted the vote of the rest of the membership whether we should ask them to come back or not, and most of the members almost unanimously said, nope, don't ask them back. So it's sometimes there are them people that when they leave, it's not always bad.
Well, no, and actually, and that's part of the issue, is because we normally let anybody and everybody in, that's kind of the side effects that we obtain. Now we've become a little bit more stringent in the fact that our folks all have to go through a background check as well as fingerprinting now. So some of those don't even want to deal with that. So that kind of automatically weeds them out. if that's a good thing or a bad thing, we're too new into that process to really tell. But I can tell you that everybody is valuable. There's always a role for someone to do something at the station. And the other problem is we have a high turnover because of us in the stations. 9 times out of 10, people quietly leave because of something that we've done or we've not done in order to support them. And let's face it, training and for our operational folks today, it's a lot. And, if they're young, yes, they want the knowledge, absolutely. Because they don't have the same knowledge background, it's harder for them to understand. So we need to take the time and help them to understand. Can it be mind-blowing sometimes? Absolutely. I'm not going to lie. I'll just say this as an example. I have in my class one time, I had a student that I asked to go take the trash bag out of the trash can and throw out after we had one of our trainings. Student walks over to the trash can and I turned around and I said, "Hey, what's up? I don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "What? I've never done this. So can you show me?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, you've never taken a trash bag out of a trash can?" So I'm like, "Well, this is it. It's not hard. This is what we do. You need to take it over here and put this one in its replacement." I assumed. And because I assumed, that student felt really bad and stupid. And it wasn't the intent of that at all. I was giving a specific direction. I was asking for a specific task to be done. And my assumption was, hey, it's going to be done because you know how to do it.
So welcome back, Stephen. I see you had a little computer problem there.
Yeah, it froze up.
I got a couple more questions for you. Could you explain what some departments are using their open houses and recruitment campaigns locally to attract new volunteers in their community?
I guess there's a question: are they using open houses for that recruitment? Is that kind
right?
Yes. I mean, I would definitely say in our area, the open house, as we, traditionally have seen, has kind of gone to the wayside. I would say what is really excelled is partnerships with community colleges, with the high school fire programs, and the community college initiating conversations with the departments, the county associations, about opportunities to come speak to different school groups or different events that the community college has about workforce development and career opportunities with involving the fire service.
Here's another one that I think maybe you can relate to is and Joyce also, but for firefighters or people living outside of your communities and being able to maybe like serve on a duty crew where the response from home isn't necessary.
Right. Yeah. So that's definitely something that is growing within our area. We began that too as our transitioned. We broke the district barrier wall and allowed people to come volunteer and pull shift duty times with our department. And I know other organizations in our area are definitely open to that. They provide a calendar and they put those expectations, as Joyce said, out there to those individuals of what their expectations were, but they put that calendar out and allowed them to sign up for it. And, they knew they wouldn't see these individuals if the pager went off, in the middle of the evening or the night or the day because of their proximity but they were able to plan and manage better, as far as who was around and guaranteed availability of response to those duty crew signups.
And just to piggyback off of that, a lot of ours are no longer the first year area. We have a few, but most of them are not. But we also have the option that we have what we call a primary station and a secondary station. That if I want to go volunteer at my primary station, that's where the most of my work's going to be done. But if I know another station needs the assistance, or they've asked that I come help cover a duty crew or something, they can put me on as a secondary member, and I can also fill in at that station as well. It helps more on the responding side. We are not allowed to respond anymore in private owned vehicles because it's become an insurance / safety issue. So it gives our folks the opportunity to plan better, as you stated. It gives our folks opportunity to say, I want to go to this station and I want to go to this station, and they can kind of compare, you know, or and learn different apparatus. So it's a learning experience for them as well as getting their hours in, because we do have what we call a length of service program, awards program, and that accounts towards it. So anytime they do a standby and or they actually do runs, that all counts towards their LoSAP.
Yeah, I would like to add one more on that. We have departments too that are didn't originally, but are setting their stations up for the ability to have sleeping quarters, and are looking at firefighter and really attracting, you know, out of that high school program that are maybe attending local community college to, I mean, even if it's a trade they're going for at a local community, give them that opportunity for free room and board with, you know, in return for some volunteer hours.
Right.
And that's still a very successful approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one that we haven't really talked about yet is the junior firefighters or junior member programs. Have either one of you worked with those?
I have. We actually have established at the county level, as well as I have station side. So I'm talking from both sides. On a volunteer level, I have 5 stations that we interact with. They take ages 12 to 16, because 16 is the minimum that can join. And they literally keep them engaged at the corporations, doing drills, showing them how to do their gear, showing them what each piece of apparatus is, showing them how to connect their SCBA together, how to tear their gear apart. They do fundraisers as well. They know when they hit that 16 mark, they're ready to go, they're ready to fly, and they're ready to take on. By the time they're 18, most of them are already applying for career positions, which is good for the career. Kind of stinks for the volunteers, because we're all fighting for the same ages. On the flip side, in our office under the volunteer services, we actually have what we call a work-based training, high school work-based learning internship. And it is a intern where the students come to our training facilities from noon to 3, Monday through Friday. And they learn, we have, I think it's 9 different classes that's in that school year, because we only do ours by calendar school, the calendar based upon the school calendar. And they go through the program, they get their certifications, and they keep moving forward. The school board actually has just sat down with us within the last couple of weeks, stating that they want to take and use the certifications they received from us to start giving them certification on their side in the new program that the Maryland State schools are issuing. But our folks a lot of times will come in, they'll do it. They also get a high school grade. So it's kind of a win-win, because we have them by the time the 9 months are up, they can move right on into a piece of apparatus and can be considered staffing for us. Whereas when our younger junior programs, the same thing. Once they hit 16, we can automatically start including them as once they get their minimum, like hazmat, not, because we have to have a few other classes minimum. But once they get them, they're considered staffing.
Yeah, and we do a lot of things similar in North Carolina that Joyce mentioned. The high school program are definitely growing. And there's some transitioning to a degree. Our State Board of Education adopted a program, but some areas they're running them through the local community college. So we've got a little bit of that. All of that is encompassed with the Office of State Fire Marshal. Recent legislative changes in North Carolina allow 15-year-olds to begin obtaining their certification process. We have a state junior firefighter standard in place, and I know MBFC has a lot of that reference material. BFIS has a lot of that reference material for that as well. But we also locally we have a junior firefighter training day where we make the focus and attention and center it around them. I mean, a lot of times when they're attending a normal training night, they're still on the bench per se, watching and not really necessarily participating. So I think this year's attendees for our county junior firefighter training, which is again even extended beyond our county borders, we're in the ranges of 75, maybe 100 junior firefighters there at our community college training center. So that's definitely growing, and we're putting a focus. We have some counties in the central part of the state have junior firefighter competitions similar to the firefighter combat challenge. So really showing that emphasis and focus and attention towards them, because that's if we don't start that recruitment young, we're not going to have anybody to continue this process.
Yeah, the NBC does have a lot of good resources out there. I use them a lot to get ideas to help me move forward with some of the game plans that I come up with. So utilize all the resources. Actually, mentorship in the NBFC is awesome. They have some really good ideas.
I guess I got one more topic I was going to bring up. Department leaders provide an all-inclusive and inviting atmosphere to members who want to stay part of the department. And I assume most of you guys were going to say some do, some don't, right? But that is a very important thing because I've always felt the recruitment and retention all comes down to leadership. If the leadership don't believe in it, things ain't going to work out right. So I seen one of the other questions popped up about tuition as a incentive for colleges. Have either one of you want to speak of that?
I can.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Stephen.
Go right.
As part of our volunteer recognition, we do get at the county level provide our individual volunteers at the station level tuition reimbursement. And it's kind of cool because the tuition reimbursement that we offer at the county level is the same exact tuition reimbursement that all county employees get. So we do it based upon what classes they're taking, but we also have the fact that we have a couple of colleges, local colleges, that will take their training from our EMS and our Fire 1 and 2 and hazmat ops and transfer it to the Fire Science Administration degree.
And we have that as well as far as the transfer of certification to credit in the degree program. I know a lot of departments offer a variety of things. In North Carolina, all the certification training is free. There is tuition waivers by all our community college system there, so our volunteers pay nothing to obtain their certifications. On the curriculum side, they still have to pay, but we have a plethora of scholarship opportunities, both locally all the way through the state level, available to volunteers, that they can apply for.
Yeah, in Nebraska, with one of our SAFER grants, we provided tuition reimbursement to college students if they commit to a 2-year of service or their parents. So it was both recruitment and retention. Maybe the student had no intentions of ever becoming a firefighter, but if their parents stayed on, were committed to staying on 2 years, their child still got the tuition. So that's one of the ways we used here in Nebraska. So.
Yeah. Joel, when I froze up, I noticed one of the questions involved about the frequency of training. Did y'all address that while I was froze up?
Well, we didn't really do it, but I think there was enough other comments in there. I know our department typically has meeting night, EMS training night, and fire training night. So basically we got 3 days covered every month, but
Yeah.
I think most fire departments are different, so.
Yeah, I was going to say the only thing that I could add is that what we heard a lot from our members about, like the demand and how, you know, they were one of the hardest things for them to meet was the training demands. Because in North Carolina, your firefighter certification is volunteer career. It is the same. You go through the same amount of training, the same amount of hours. There's no separation. So we have backed ours down to 2 trainings a month. And we've incorporated some online formats to give them the ability to, you know, at home do some of the additional training. So we have a medical and a fire training a month now. And the fire training is actually incorporated with all our departments at a training center. So that's something that we've done. And I know some other departments have gone to, you know, quarterly based, maybe 8-hour trainings, or to try to help manage that demand on the training aspects. That I just definitely something, you know, training that is in between running, you know, having our members adequately trained to stay safe in you know, in these dangerous environments they're working in, or the training is what keeps us alive. You know, essentially with these responses that we're going to.
Yeah, you know, even in our small department, we have minimum training requirements, but yet, as we talk, it's hard for the commitment on drill night for you to be there. But we allow them to take classes on the NVFC site. You print out the certificate, and we count that as your training. So there are a lot of online options available out there for training.
Yeah.
So. All right. Stephen, there was one question I think kind of goes back to one of the things you brought up, and that was about the legalities of buying gifts and awards with fire department monies. Now, I know in Nebraska, yes, the state auditor is very concerned about what tax money is spent for, and that really doesn't include much for awards. So I don't know what you want to share.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, you know, I think that would be something to definitely check with how you are funded versus tax money versus donations, and find out what either local policy and or state requirement is allowed with the funding sources you're at. In North Carolina, there is, you know, all our departments are in our area at least are required to have an audit per contract, and you know, follow those procedures. But they, you know, I definitely think you have to, you know, it has to be looked at from that aspect too. So that would be more of what is allowed at your local area.
Also, to piggyback off of that, I know a lot of counties in their state, they act as part of their fundraisers part of their monies go to what we call a kitty, to buy the gifts and awards, because it's coming in from the public. It's not being given to them directly from a state or a county resource. And the other thing that they also do is go find a donating company. You can go solicit for them. You know, anytime you get donations in, that can go to those type of things.
Well, we're closing in on that hour, and I don't know that I've missed any questions that we haven't really touched base on. But I sure want to thank Joyce and Stephen for joining us. If we have any other key resources or ideas you want to bring up.
I just want to say one thing. We all need to operate as a culture that we are a family and we need to work together as a family. And part of that family means meeting each other and knowing each other. So step outside of your little shell if you're intimidated, because this is a service you can't be intimidated in. You've got to step up, put yourself out in the presence, and move forward. Thank you for allowing me to share in this opportunity.
Yeah, and make sure you do check out the nvfc.org. They have the Make Me a Firefighter program and a lot of other good programs. The junior firefighter program, things there to do or check out and get a lot of good information. So again, thank you all for participating today and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye all.